we're back. That didn't seem like long at all. And I want to show you how I'm going to be doing the painting. I'm not going to demonstrate on any of these today because I want to demonstrate on the papers that I like the best. Now, when you're I was talking earlier about the durability, because you've heard me talk about newsprint before. And newsprint, when it gets wet, it kind of gets a little floppy. So if you're new to this and you want to try something that's a little tougher, but you don't have a whole lot of money, brown paper is the way to go. And now I have like a constant supply of it because the state that I live in has also done away with the plastic bags too. So we get all of our groceries in brown paper. So if you're a little nervous about it, especially if you're doing this and you just want to explore, use whatever you want as an adult. With a kid, I would maybe try, especially if you've got ones that are under 7, I'd go with some brown paper first just to see what's going on. Let them have some fun with it. And older kids, I did this lesson 3rd grade through 5th grade because they didn't like kill the paper. Does that make sense? So I also pay attention to what's on what side of the paper. So it's like, I don't like things that have big pieces of black on them. So I think I'm going to go with this side of the paper. Now, when it comes to the paint, I tend to work, because I'm showing you the version of the painting that I did, which was very much a color theory lesson. So I'm going to do I need some oranges. So another trick, if you're ordering paint at home and you've got kids, order 2 yellow, 1 blue, 2 red. The blue pigments tend to have a lot more to them, and you'll use a lot less of it, but yellows you will fly through. So I'm putting in here those colors that make orange, red, and yellow. Oops, that was a mess. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I'm just going to smear that right there. Yep, yep, yep. I feel like I made one of those mistakes, like those Julia Child mistakes. And just for funsies, wow, I really got it on there. I also forgot to tell you I have a rag out, but yeah. I'm going to throw in some of this magenta. Now, you're asking me, why am I throwing in magenta? Because of CMYK. No, that's not Y2K. It's because it's within the warm color spectrum, and I kind of like the orange and this together. So you're not going to be like going really totally off script here. Now, for the papers that I've been painting recently, I've been favoring this is technically a watercolor brush, and it's a really inexpensive one. You can tell here I had to glue the ferrule back on because it kept popping off, and I used, I think, Gorilla Glue to do it. It is not a fabulous brush. I am kind of embarrassed by this brush, but adding a little water to it is going to help. Now, when I'm mixing the paints, you noticed I put them separately, and I know I'm going to use a lot of yellow here. I tend to mix between the colors, and sometimes that color will start to kind of take over. Now, I also, this is great for kids because I don't do a lot of brush washing when it comes to this. Usually the brush only goes in the water once I'm done with something or I'm moving something around. Okay, so I got some interesting color going on here. And remember, I also have some white out because I might want to opaque some of this. So now I've got a couple of colors. I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors. I'm going to move this off to the side, bring this back over. Now, when I'm painting, I want you to notice where I'm holding the brush. There's a tendency for a lot of people to choke up on the brush. Don't choke the brush. I'm going through here and I'm moving things around. I stay about 7 millimeters from the edge. I also do a lot of mixing on the paper. Coming in here and grabbing some more of this. And I'm coming close to the edge. Now, why I do it that way is because I do not want to have to get icky fingers, sticky fingers in here. Okay, I'm gonna change this light a little. It's still gonna be a little shiny, but you'll be able to see it a little bit better. Now, what I'm avoiding is a lot of clumping of the color. I don't want big blops of color. So you can see here, there's more pigment here. If you're using an inexpensive tempera paint or acrylic paint, it's going to dry flatter. The more expensive and the more full-bodied kinds of paints that you're using, you're going to get more clumping. So for this paper, for this technique of painting, you really want something that's, what's that? It's a little triangle or something. You really want something that's going to be a bit thinner. And you can see here, I'm now holding on to this little tiny edge here, and I'm making sure. I can also see that it's starting to dry in here. These things right here, this kind of little streakiness, hold this up to see if you can see it. There's some streakiness there where the color is far more evident. You can kind of see the brush stroke. I like that stuff, so I'm going to keep it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this over here. I'm going to grab another piece, flip it over because I really didn't like that other thing. And now, because that piece I'd like to rework into, and that's where we can have some fun with stuff like this. Now, I tend to not want a lot of water on this paper because remember I told you it'll start to degrade. I'm sorry, I'm moving my palette around because I need to be able to see the colors. And I tend to have my palette to the right of me simply because I'm right-handed. Now, just because I am favoring this brush, I want to show you some different brushes, so I'm going to toss that in there. This one, again, this one will get a lot of paint out. I'm going to dip in here, and you can see that's really bloppy. And this one, if you're looking for a different kind of coverage, you can see, and this is just part of the experiment. How can the color change? I think it's also interesting, especially if you're doing this with little kids, how the colors will change when you go over things. Like that blue changes. That was an unexpected part of the lesson when I was teaching it in elementary school. So a brush like this, you can see it's a much more smooth application as opposed to the one that's technically a watercolor brush. It will have more of brush-like. I mean, you can still get brush-like strokes in this, but they're going to be different. And it's kind of, this is one of those things where it's like you pick and choose. This is your rodeo. I try to make sure that I'm getting all over everything. I will say for a brush like this that's got a flatter edge on it and it isn't a round, it's a flat, you can get better coverage and know where stuff is going, if that makes any sense. Know where your paint's going. Okay, so I think I got all of that, except for I can see a little space right there. And part of that's a bummer because you're painting along and you don't see the little spot. But then when you're working on paper collage, it's like, oh crud, there's a little bit of a color in there that I really don't, or not painted. That's where the paint pens come in really super handy. Put this over here. And now I think, let me put this over here. And again, like I said, I'm working at a pretty confined space here. Oh, okay, so let's try something on the brown. Now remember, the brown is its own color. So you're going to get some different, you can see it goes on differently. The thinner the paint, the more you're having a dulling effect of the paint showing up. But you still can see this is a reddish pigment that's going down. So let's try some yellow. I just grabbed some yellow with my brush, because yellow is probably going to look more brownish and greenish on here. And see, you can get some brush stroke stuff going on with this, which is a lot of fun. So you can see here, I've got more of that, and I want to rework back into this piece. I'm scooping up some more orange, because like I said, orange is what I really wanted, but now I'm kind of looking at this. This is one of those interesting things where it's like, I wanted more orange, because orange is my favorite color, and I'm kind of digging what's going on here. Oh, this one looks, this reddish pinkish orange looks really nice on here. And you can see this paper is reacting a little differently. And I want you to notice something I'm doing here. I always tell my students to do this, to like wipe off their brush. Now I'm going to come back in here with a little more. And remember, there's a part that's kind of liberating about this, because I am not using paints or paper that are breaking the bank. I feel as though I've done some things here that are kind of neat, but if I totally like flubbed it up and like I messed everything up that I thought was really cool, bam, get another piece. It's not a big deal. What's the worst that's going to happen? This is going to turn into something you do something else with. So I'm going to pop this one over here. I'm going to put my brush in here. And my husband just walked in, and he is going to, we're going to be eating some lunch. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my paper's drying. I'm going to pop this on top. I really don't need it to do anything more than just kind of sit there for right now. I'm going to let these other papers dry, and then I'm going to come back and show you how you can rework back into them with some interesting textures and different kinds of paint type things.